Alright, so this is my emotional response to The Order 1886. Doing it from a different angle, trying something a little different this time. I'm trying to show you why this game showed me a lot about responsibility. It did that in a very strange way. It did that in a very unique way. 8:37 right now. Just checking the time, making sure I do good. But I really liked it because it really showed me about responsibility in a different way than what mostly is out there. It sums it up at the end here, so this is a spoiler alert, the biggest one you could give. But there's big reason behind it because the whole game kind of gets back to a certain point at the end that started at the beginning that had a different answer. But once this information is found out, it changes the whole dynamic of who's right, who's wrong, whatever the situation is. The Order 1886 is 100 years before I was born, so it's interesting. But I just want you to watch a little bit of this scene. I'm not going to make this monetized, so don't worry.
I've lived too long to not know this day would come.
Why, Alistair? You were forced outside all these years.
I've seen things I am condemned to remember. Civilizations born and destroyed by humanity's incessant greed. The pride of men slaughtering each other in the name of their so-called God.
We will atone for our sins in time. But how can you justify the atrocities your kind have committed?
My kind are no more evil than yours.
Okay. So first off, this is heavy subject because this is about what mankind is versus what the Lycan are in this story, which is the vampires and werewolves, I guess you could say. Sorry, not vampires, but what werewolves are. And I wanted to bring that up because it's important to look at it from the perspective of like what each race looks at. Something like that. And it's an altering subject because no matter what, there are wrongs that have not been righted, so to speak. And literally, I like how certain comedians say it. If I was to say the truth about certain things, I like how certain comedians say it. I like how George Carlin said it. I like how Bill Hicks said it. There's a lot of people out there I could look towards and say, oh, these are the right people to look at for my answers, even in a way. One of the best quotes from George Carlin to me is, I just love watching people circle in the drain. You know, I'm not here to participate. I'm here watching people circle in the drain, which I think is what the outreach of most people are. So when I hear particular views, I always wonder, like, why don't you just watch people circle the drain? Because, like, his mentality was be sarcastic, be cynical, but it was almost like a apolitical approach, not apolitical, but like anti-political approach to shit. Like, it's all bullshit. And, excuse the language, but the emotional kind of being and awareness in this story comes out right here at the end. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about The Order 1886, because it actually comes out. Let's watch a little more. What that responsibility is, it'll come up in just a second.
Your sister? Your father? Was it all a lie?
Izzy, my father. I loved them as my own blood. And they cannot begin to know the curse I have lived with.
My son.
Father, forgive me.
It is I who needs your forgiveness. I never meant this life for you. You knew. I have always known. I rescued him from the massacre of his family. Your father died by my sword. But a child? You didn't deserve such a fate. How could I have taken the life of an innocent? Confess this to the Council, Lord Chancellor. It is the only way to make amends for the havoc that has been unleashed. I cannot! The revelation would shake our order to its very foundations. So I am to be sacrificed. How many more must die to ensure an eternal silence? He is my son. I cannot be the one to end his life. Isabeau and the council must never discover the truth, lest all you hold dear perish.
Do not ask this of me.
Henceforth, you shall have fellowship with no knights. The order must remain united. You are no longer one of its heralds. Finish what you have begun, and vanish! Men were never meant to live this life.
Okay. I have to pause there because I realized a few things just by hearing that again. The first part, which we already saw before I did the pause and stuff, it had to do about civilizations and mankind and all that stuff. And it came to the same proportions every time. That's what I noticed. In the second part, I noticed the part about responsibility, especially with the dad not wanting to kill the son. That happens in more cases than just having to kill a person. I've noticed that personally. Now, I'll be honest, I feel free and clear now, because there's a lot of stuff that's gotten cleared up in my own personal life and fixed without me having to press a button, so to speak. There's responsibility I take up, but there's also things I am not responsible for that have now been fixed completely in a way I wouldn't have expected beautifully. The one thing about the Order 1886 I notice is that it does still bring the notion of, like, parentage to a point and a degree where it's like, your son was not good though, you know, and it's these revelations don't always happen to people. What happened to that guy, that son right there, and what he was saying, even though he was laying there dying, it doesn't happen to everybody. Not everyone who goes through that. Now, not to say it can't happen. I think that should happen to most people, meaning that it would be good if there was an inciting moment for someone to just get that. Yes, they'll probably have their last days right then, like this one did. But I think it's important to look at that and say, oh shit, you know, maybe there is something to this. That's really all the scene I wanted to show you, but maybe there is something to this thing about the Order 1886 that I didn't really expect. I didn't really expect it to be about an emotional behaviors inside a family. Even though you don't see like the whole landscape of it, you see the dad, you see the son, and you see our main character, who's taking procession in the whole damn thing, when he doesn't really need to. It's not really his take. And I think that's the thing I've noticed in real life. That sometimes we can't escape certain things that come around us, the decisions, the choices, you know. You know, if you're decided on something, you're decided, you know. And I think it's good to have an open mind, but understand what your decisions are, you know, in general. And I think that's a harder thing to do when you're brought up a certain way, or to live up to certain standards or certain things. So to me, the Order 1886 really brought that up. It really showed the anxiety that could be built up because of those tropes, because of those ideas that are brought up within the family. Maybe something that they think can just go away, or maybe it's just something that will fix itself. When you're a kid, that's hard to say. When you're an adult, again, it won't fix itself. But that's why you have to work on those things. That's what the Order 1886 really showed me, is that it's not just about saying, oh, it's going to fix itself. It's about working on that. And like our main character, he has to make an ultimate decision at that point. You know, the rest of them don't really need to. He walks away, gives him the gun. The guy's just sitting there waiting to die, pretty much. Or not die, since he's a Lycan. But that's really what I wanted to say about this game. Really important about responsibility, parentage, history, civilizations. Beautiful. Thanks, guys.